Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central here in Kent, Ohio. Greetings, greetings, greetings. It's the dawn of a brand new day, and we're going to keep on doing what we've been doing in a very similar way. So today we are going to be honing in on one of our most esteemed leaders of all time, and that is old Marcus Garvey. Old Marcus Garvey. And we're going to be passing on some Garveyisms to you and everything. Now, let me see if I can read these page numbers here. I'm going to find a little bit on old Marcus Garvey. Yes, because Marcus, one thing Marcus never did, Marcus never lied to us. He always told us the truth. Here we go. All right, so before we get started, you know what we need to do. Number one, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, a thumbs up if you're watching on the tube, and then go ahead and spread the word far and wide to the east, the west, the north, and the south, all over the planet Earth about Black Facts and what we're doing over here. So we want y'all to kick back, relax, and enjoy some Black Facts. Here we go. Let's see what we got for you today. From old Marcus Garvey. Old Marcus Garvey. Oops. Oh, I see. Showing a little bit too much. Oops. It looks like my slip is showing. Let me just slip into something a little bit more comfortable. See what we got right here. Here we go. Slip into something a little bit more comfortable. Okay, always got to format these slideshows, and if you don't do that, you can have all kinds of crazy stuff happening. How about that? Yeah, that's better. All right, now, proverb for today. Not a proverb at all, but rather the words of Marcus Garvey, and we're going to be bringing you Garvey quotes all week, so get ready. God made us in his perfect creation. He made no mistake when he made us with kinky hair. Damn. He came right with that. Now, you know what? Sometimes we read poetry and sometimes we don't. Today, we're going to add a little poem in here too. Now, you know what? I'll save that for tomorrow. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. We'll save the poem for tomorrow. Okay? We won't hit you with all the best stuff all at the same time, but we certainly will save this poem for you for tomorrow. And meanwhile, we're going to be reading out of a whole different book. And that is this book we got right here. This book we got right here. The World's Great Men of Color. The World's Great Men of Color. Written back in, about 1914, something like that. Quite some time ago by the most prolific, most basic African-American historian to ever walk on the planet Earth. And that is Joel Augustus Rogers. Came right out of J.A., like Marcus Garvey. And we're going to read what Joel Augustus Rogers, J.A. Rogers as we know him, what J.A. Rogers had to say about Marcus Garvey. And of course, we're going to be hearing from the man himself. We'll be hearing from his wife. We'll be hearing from his children. We'll be hearing from all kinds of people. So pay attention on the weekends. Don't slough off just because it's the weekend, because we will also be having a number of playlists. 2 playlists. We always do 2 playlists. And our playlists this week are going to be featuring tomes related to Marcus Garvey. Okay, the history of Marcus Garvey and the revolutionary African liberation movements that he inspired. He may not have gone over there and physically started them himself, but inspiration is the beginning of any kind of revolution, because it takes what? About 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. And you put that together and it adds up to your own liberation. Okay. I don't know who that is calling, but whoever it is going to get short shrift today. Okay. Now, let's carry on. Where were we at? We've got, we'll go back to our slideshow. Okay. So, Marcus Garvey, provincial president of Africa and Messiah, born 1887, lived until 1940. So you can see he was a young man when he passed, as many of our leaders are. They burn out somewhat quickly. But he left a lasting legacy in spite of that short time that he was actually here on the planet Earth. Marcus Garvey, quote unquote, back to Africa leader, was the most widely known of all the agitators for the rights of the Negro, and one of the most phenomenal. Arriving in the United States poor and unknown, he succeeded within 4 years of being the most talked of black man in the United States and the West Indies, and perhaps in the world. Keeping in mind at that point in time when he arrived that all the African countries, except with the exception of Ethiopia, were colonized. He was born in Jamaica, West Indies, of very humble parents. His father was a breaker of stones on the roadway. He himself went to the denominational school and dreamed of doing great things. He read Plutarch and worshipped Napoleon. On Sundays, he pumped the organ in the Wesleyan Methodist Church at St. Ann's Bay, of which his parents were members. Later, Garvey became a Catholic. Leaving school at 16, he went to work as an apprentice in the printing plant of P. Austin Benjamin in Kingston. 6 years later, he was the foreman. In the meantime, he had been organizing the printers of the city, and soon afterward led them in a successful strike for better pay. An elocutionist. Listen to that word. An elocutionist. Also, he once won a first prize for his delivery of Chatham on Liberty. Incited by this success, he began agitation for the political rights of the blacks of the island, who, though in the majority, were of lower social caste than the mulattoes. He went also among the West Indian laborers who were recruited for work in the neighboring republics and urged them to demand more pay and better working conditions. He was arrested for this in Port Limon, Costa Rica. In 1911, he went to England and he attended London University and visited the continent and parts of North Africa, observing social conditions. In 1914, he returned to Jamaica and organized the Jamaica Improvement Association, with himself as president and his first wife as secretary. 3 years later, he came to the United States with the intention of collecting funds for a school along the lines of Tuskegee Institute in Jamaica. But he stayed on in America. His first meeting was held in a Catholic hall in Harlem. The audience was small. his address was badly put together, and the response was weak. However, when he fell from the rostrum to the floor, it was said from hunger, he had a better hearing. From New York, he traveled southward along the Atlantic seaboard to New Orleans. His addresses on the race problem aroused the Negroes until by many he came to be regarded as another Moses. In March 1917, he organized a movement calling it the Universal Negro Improvement Association. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the image right now of two youth them, and one of them is reading, the selected writings. Looks like the selected writings and speeches of Marcus Garvey. He selected 12 disciples to assist him and announced that his aim was to establish a confraternity among Negroes the world over, to promote a spirit of love and pride, to assist in civilizing backward Africans, to establish schools and scholarships, and above all, to found a strong Negro nation. As an organ, he founded a weekly newspaper, the Negro World. Contributions of from $1 to $25 were made by the 13 persons at the first meeting to build his Negro nation and carry out his program of Africa for the Africans. He said that ships were necessary, and he founded the Black Star Line. Factories were to be established in the United States. The raw material of Africa and the West Indies was to be brought to America, manufactured there, and shipped to those lands. The ships were also to be used to settle Negroes of the New World in Africa. His program received wide publicity in the white press and was not long in running afoul of the ideals of most of the American Negro leaders, who declared it a sabotaging of the fight here at home. This was all the more so when some of the most persistent enemies of the Negro hailed the Back to Africa program. Of course, these enemies knew that the Negroes would not be going to Africa, but that the program shifted attention from injustices here at home and focused hopes of relief in Africa. American Negroes had generally opposed any plan to uproot them and transplant them to Africa long before the emancipation. Had not this been advocated also by some of their most violent foes, past and present? Lincoln too had tried it, and his attempts had not only ended in failure, but his colonization of Negroes on Isla de Vache off the coast of Haiti had cost the lives of more than 100 of the Negroes taken there. Furthermore, had Lincoln been alive then, that is, in Garvey's time, he would probably have seen that colonization would not work. Established bodies as the clergy, the politicians, and the racial leaders saw in Garvey a tricky agitator who was trying to undermine them. Garvey's reply was that since Christian teaching for nearly 2,000 years had failed to soften the hearts of the whites and improve the lot of the Negroes, taking away the latter to a land of their own was the only solution. These opponents at first had the upper hand, and the Negroes shied at subscribing to his steamship stock, 10 million of which had been issued at $5 a share. Then came an affair in which he nearly lost his life. That turned the tide in his favor. A half-demented Negro pushed into his dingy office in Harlem, accusing him of swindling his money, and fired 4 shots at him, wounding him slightly. He rushed out into the street, the blood of martyrs streaming from his face. Negroes over the country carried the story, and he was a made man. Thereafter, his steamship stock sold rapidly, the humblest Negroes becoming his most rapid supporters and making what sacrifices they could to buy. The West Indians in America, with their broader international outlook, flocked to him, and 2 or 3 of them gave him $1,000 each. On August 1st, 1919, he opened his first International Congress in New York, and this date, which marked the slave emancipation in the British colonies, became an annual event. While his power lasted, these conventions opened with great spectacle. There was a huge parade through the streets of Harlem, and banners were carried with such inscriptions as "Africa must be free," "The Negro fought in Europe, he must fight in Africa," and "Freedom for all." And this, my friends, sums up the first part of what Joel Augustus Rogers had to say about Marcus Garvey. We will return to J.A. Rogers on the morrow and read some more of what he had to say about Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And we have to say it like that because oftentimes we do not give proper respect to our elders because of the pitfalls that they may have been placed in front of them and that they ended up falling into. We take those things to be serious things that are more real than planned or plotted. In other words, conspiracies. And in Marcus Garvey's case, he was the victim of one of the longest lasting conspiracies ever committed against a black man. But we'll talk more about that later. We've got an entire month. We'll be focusing on not only Marcus Garvey, but the UNIA. That is our topic for the month of August. Stick with us. It's the birthday month of Marcus Garvey, so we will be saying Happy B-Earth Day to Marcus Garvey on August. Stick with us and learn some more about Marcus Garvey as we play the music that has been dedicated to him, tell the stories, and read his very own words, as well as even hear his voice. It's going to be a dynamic program. You won't want to miss it. In the meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and sign out here. And what we need you to do right now are a few things. Number 1, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And then go ahead and spread the word far and wide. And last but not least, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the button down below. It only takes a minute. You can hit it and quit it. Just don't forget it. In the meanwhile, peace with justice, because anything less disgusts us. As we go into our extra, may peace guide your way.